Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Jack Gatti Hilton here, aka Unsung Empath, with another episode of On the Path. Here I have one of the most important people in my life. I have Evan Dominguez. Evan has agreed to do this episode with me. I didn't have to do as much tracking him down as I did with my wife, but Evan likes the spotlight. Evan, thank you so much. Tell everybody where you're joining me from.
Yeah, so joining him from my backyard, I'm in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale area to be a little more specific. I wish I could be in the studio, but you know, planes are expensive.
Yeah,
So
a little bit, right? But then again, if you look behind my house, it's blanket of snow. So some people might actually prefer your location than they do mine. So
maybe.
who's living paradise? I don't know. I kind of like the snow. So
I saw the pictures on the Facebook on your house, and it looks like a Hallmark movie. It looks beautiful.
before jumping too much into it, Evan, just be mindful that anytime you move your mouth away from like the direction of the camera, it does cut out. So if I ask you to repeat something, it's just a matter of some audio technical difficulties. And I don't really like to do so much editing. I like to have as much organic flow of things. And I don't really like the chop, 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 chop of audios because I
Yeah,
edited things out.
I got you.
So, Evan, do you remember how we became friends?
Uh, kind so I know Kelsey was coworkers with my wife, Casey, and it was a thing where like Casey just came home one day and she's like, I know this really nice girl at work and she's married and we should go out. And I was like super resistant. I have a really hard time with any of my wife's friends, husbands, or anybody, right? Uh and it was I remember our first date together was at
Our
the
first
brewer-
dates?
huh?
Our first date?
Our first date. Yeah. It was at the brewery, Lauderdale.
That's right.
And if I remember, we just totally kicked it off, and it was great. We were hanging out like every weekend for multiple weekends in a row.
I remember you were like, I know this is gonna end one day, you know?
I did. I remember that, and it did. It did. You moved.
Yeah, but you moved first.
Where did I go?
You went to
Oh, I
the
went to Orlando.
you went to Orlando, then Georgia.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, you left me, and there I was alone in South Florida where I was alone and I hated it. So I had to kind of get you back and I had to leave. And I'll show him.
Well, it worked out.
The cool thing about Evan, so this was in 2018 that I met you. So 2018, we've carried on a very successful long distance friendship.
Mhm.
And I would say in some aspects, I feel like you and I have like the most like consistent interactions, a little bit less these days. It gets busy with kids, but
Yeah,
generally we're always in communication one way or another.
yeah, it's absolutely. I think it's important to maintain a relationship. I value our relationship, so even if it's just like a once a week check in, I want to keep it going because, like I said, man, I really value our relationship.
Why do you think it's so important when you think about, for example, we met because of our wives being like teachers and stuff. Why do you think it's important for men to have peer relationships in the way that we do and other people, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, I guess you see men, but like I think it's important for anybody to have a relationship outside their families. Families, it's listen, you're gonna have your boundary lesson around family, and that could be a good thing and a bad thing. There are certain things I could never, at least for me, bring up to my wife that I feel like I can bring up to you because it's like you said, it's like a man perspective, and you understand what it's like to be a husband. You understand what it's like to be a father, and I can't necessarily communicate that with my wife, right? She can't necessarily understand, well, at least in my point of view, in her point of view, what it means like to try to be the provider, what it means to try to be the person who's gonna protect always, who's gonna put his family first always. With having someone like you or another friendship, someone outside of marriage, you can express those things. I I know, Jack. I'm kinda going on a bit of a ramble. If I'm being honest, though,
I'm used to the rambles, so you're good.
to be honest though too, and it's kinda hard to talk to my wife about a lot of things because I don't know, like she's great. I can express things to her. She's never made it like, "Ah, I don't want to talk to you," but it's like she's not much of an engager when it comes to like emotional talks in general. You know what I'm saying? Like I can easily have those conversations with you. With you and me, we're just bounce, 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 constantly go back and forth. Well, with her, she kind of just brings up like very short answers, like, "Oh yeah, I get that," and then just like leaves it there. Or yeah, that must suck, and just leaves it right there. It's like,
Well, see, some
okay,
people are,
well,
yeah, we were talking about that actually the other day. Actually, she's like, "Yeah, I guess I'm really not a seeker of that like emotional like conversation." Like we really do break the, I think, the gender stereotype. Kelsey and I sometimes. I'm definitely the emotional one. So I can relate a lot to having somebody and needing somebody to engage in regularly about just what's going on in your head and your heart and in your walk. You're a spiritual person. I know, just even being able to connect in that way is so important.
yeah.
Right outside of the responsibility, I think, of being a, like you said, a husband and a father. So, you were mentioning about like your family. Where did you grow up? Give us a little bit of background about you.
Yeah. So it's a classic Miami going to, excuse me, Cuban going to Miami story, right? So my mother is from Cuba. She moved to the United States when she was 6 years old. My dad is a New Yorker. He grew up in New York and uh, born and raised, I should say, until about 10 years old when he moved to Miami. But both his parents immigrated from Cuba as well. So I have just always been in South Florida all my life, Broward area specifically. I would see Hialeah a lot growing up, because my parents got divorced when I was really young. So I was in Hialeah. My mom would drop us off there almost every weekend. Um, but yeah, true and true South Florida kid, still here.
Now, you're Cuban. Do you know Spanish? You grew up in Cuba 2.0, Hialeah.
I know, but I,
You're
I
not
don't.
getting by if you don't know Spanish, even a little bit.
I know. I know it a little. I know enough to carry a good conversation, and I know it enough that like no one. I always can understand the context of a conversation, right? So no one can like talk about me in Spanish, and I'm gonna know what they're saying. I may not know every single word, but I know enough to pick up the context of like, oh, okay, I know you communicate to me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you grew up in a split household. What age did your parents divorce? You said.
I've had this conversation before with my parents. I think three. I don't have any memories of them being together. I mean, I remember them in the same areas, but it was like fights. I don't remember any romantic kind of connection between them. You know what I mean?
So really, for most of your life, you lived in a split household.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I would most of the time I was raised with my mom, and every other weekend, me and my sister, we would spend the weekend in Homestead, with where that's where my dad lived, and that stopped until I was about 16 years old. Is when that stopped. So we kept doing it until I was 16.
And did you continue to have a relationship with your dad?
Yeah, yeah. We still do. I was just with him 2 days ago celebrating his birthday.
Sorry, let me backtrack.
Mhm.
When you stopped doing that, at that time, did you have a relationship with your dad?
Oh, yeah. No, no, no. We did. We maintained a relationship. I've never not talked to my dad, right? I can't ever say my dad wasn't involved in my life. He was always involved. Was it like the traditional dad relationship where I see him home every day? No, of course. But he always
No.
made an effort to be involved with us in the best way he could, you know?
What was growing up with your mom? Was she a single parent? Was she, raising the two of you? You and your sister?
In the beginning, yeah, beginning. I want to say when I was about 8 or 7 years old, she met a man at her workplace named John, Minnesota. John was, at first it was a struggle. I gotta admit, having this other man seeing my mom in my house, and eventually, at first it was just seeing him, little sprinkles, doses, and next thing I know, there he's moving in, and it was difficult. Ish. I don't know. John's always been a very sweet guy. Uh, and me and him have a fantastic relationship to this day. I was with my dad 2 days ago, and yes, him. I almost consider him like a second father, and I know my dad hates that, and I kind of get it being a dad myself. Like, let's face it, this man got to spend a lot more time with me than my dad did, even though my dad liked to have been in his position. It's just
Yeah, why didn't you have that luxury of being able to see your dad as consistently? Was it the distance?
it was definitely the distance. I like I said, I grew up in Weston, Florida. My dad was living in Homestead.
Which is
I,
about what, like 40 minutes to an hour?
gosh, yeah, about an hour drive between the two. And still going to school, right? Go to, so I'm there every weekday, and excuse me, and I got normal relationships I want to maintain. I got friends, I got girlfriends, so I still want to spend some weekends with them, right? So that's why we did, and of course, like my mom wants to spend some weekends with her son and her daughter. So that's why on we did it every other weekend thing to appease seeing my dad, but also trying to live our life on every other weekend where we got to spend 10 times with my mom and our friends.
Mm.
Yeah.
Again, sorry about if Evan's, internet's spotty, it's like that anyway.
Is it? I has
It
full bars.
kinda come in and out, but it's like I can understand pretty much the gist of things, but your Wi-Fi is kinda spotty naturally, and you're in, like, the heart of Broward County.
Yeah. Is it like odd?
You're good. I'll look back and it'll probably be like, yeah, home and stuff, but generally there's a flow to it. Just like I said, just do your best to kinda talk right at the camera, versus, like, swaying too much, okay?
Yeah. If it gets bad, I could always put on my headphone. Maybe that'll help with the audio.
We'll see.
Okay.
What was it like growing up as a Cuban in Florida? I guess, I don't know, it's different. I can't speak for being a Latino guy, what was it like for you?
I can only speak from my own personal experience. So, like, listen, South Florida, massive Latino community, right? Especially Cubans. So I don't know if there was ever like an oddity in it. If I'm being honest with you, the only common oddity that I've always found in my, even it's still to this day, it's like, oh, your last name's Dominguez. What do you mean you don't know 100% Spanish? Which really bothers me at times because it's like, oh, well, what's your last name? Oh, Oberlander? You don't know Germany or German? Oh, well, how come that's an excuse? But everyone with Spanish must know Spanish. It's so annoying.
Yeah, that can get annoying.
Yeah.
And at times, did it make you feel like, "Ooh, something's wrong with me?"
Yeah, to this day, it's like, am I somehow less of a Spanish person just because I'm not completely fluent in the language? I understand it's important to like cultural connection. And yeah, sometimes I feel that maybe I'm a little disassociated with my culture because I don't know Spanish as much. Problem is, you can't take away where my family came from. You can't take away my blood, right? I grew up in America. Sure, it's South Florida. A lot of people here know Spanish, right? I mean, we got billboards all over Hialeah that's only in Spanish. But but I don't know. I don't feel any less connected to my roots just because of that. I'm a Cuban American through and through. I'm American first, right? Just with a Cuban background.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate obviously to, I mean, my mom's from Italy. I grew up for a little bit in Montreal before coming down to South Florida. And my mom's native language is Italian and then French and then English. And how many of that do I know now? I only know English. So,
Yeah.
but my family in Montreal, right, they have the traditional Italian weddings and, experiences because there's a lot more hubs, where they kinda congregate, not so much with us, right? We fell into a lot of the more Spanish my sister married a Cuban since I was, like, I don't know, 8. So I always joke that I kinda grew up Cuban too because my brother-in-law and I lived with them for a good amount of my life. So it's yeah, it is. You do kinda feel this, like, separation. You're like, I am Italian, and that's a huge component of who I am. Yet at the same part, hanging out with certain people kind of makes me feel like a half blood or half breed. What do they call people in Harry Potter? Muggles or something?
Yeah, yeah,
I would feel like a little muggle.
filthy half breeds.
Breeds, yeah, but in reality, we're kind of the coolest ones.
Yeah,
Everyone wants to relate to my other half, which is the Scottish Irish part. They're like, oh, we wish there's like Scandinavian. So they're like, I wish I was a Viking. Well, I got that. You wear kilts and you go to the Renaissance fair. You wish
yeah.
my other
I'm
half. I
every
get it.
every time.
Everyone wants to be me. I get it. No, I'm kidding. I can't even say that seriously. So Evan, you grew up with your mom.
Mhm.
Did you have a good relationship with your mom?
Yeah. No, mom, great. I love my mom.
What was life like growing up with your mom?
It's fun in a lot of ways. My mom was a very traditional Cuban woman, but she also wasn't. Like, she if you had anything dirty in your room and you didn't pick it up, boy, she had no problem coming in there, yelling, getting the chancleta, right? She honestly she was very conservative in a lot of ways, like a lot of old Cuban women, right? She could raise her voice, she could easily get upset, but just like a lot of old Cuban women, don't mess with her babies. She did not like when people talked bad about me or my sister. She would defend us tooth and nail, but she'd be the first one to discipline us too easily, right? Try to call us out if she thought she was lying. She was untraditional in the way that she also just like loved her country music. She loved going on cruises with my stepdad, and they were part of like the Parrot Club, like the Margaritaville Jimmy Buffett thing, right? Like so, she was
I'm a
in a
little
lot of ways
jealous.
untraditional herself, but very traditional. It's hybrid.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And she got married when? 'Cause you said your stepdad like sprinkled around and then finally moved in. When did they
Yeah,
get married?
they got married in Vegas when I was a kid at the Excalibur Hotel. I still remember the wedding. I know I was in elementary school. I want to say I was maybe in 4th or 5th grade when they got married. So I don't know what year that might have been. Um, but yeah, it was early 2000s for sure. That I could tell you that.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, you have some siblings with that relationship.
Yeah. So all in all, I have 3 stepbrothers. 2 of them which came from my Minnesota stepdad, John. One of them is from my stepmother, Maria, who is herself a full-blown Cuban. She didn't come to the United States, I don't think, until, like, her late 20s or something like that.
She's married to your dad.
Yes.
So only you and your sister Erica are biologically related. So no half. It's only step. Got it. Okay. Okay. And what age? I mean, 4th grade-ish. So 9-ish, 10. What was it like to not just have a sister, but then have siblings that did you grow up with them living like together?
Yeah, so Brad and James are my stepbrothers from John, my Minnesota stepdad who's married to my mom. Willie is Maria's son, who's married to my dad, Maria, my stepmom. So I did grow up with Brad and James, right? Because same thing, Willie lived with my dad. Willie lived with Maria, right? And Willie was also 14 years old when I first met him, I believe. So maybe Maria wasn't in her late. Oh, no. She was like in her late 20s when she moved here, but that didn't mean she met my dad. Anyways, growing up with Brad and James, honestly, it felt really organic. It didn't really feel like there was like any kind of opposition. It felt like there was more opposition with my stepdad, not to any fault of his own. It was just me being a little kid again, being like, who's this guy with my mom, right? But like I loved his sons. We had a really good relationship. I'd always tell people like I tell people now, like John's my second father. Well, those were my real brothers, you know.
Mm. And any major like changes in your family dynamic throughout the years?
Uh, I mean, yeah. Uh, I mean, gosh, I now things are different now. Um, I can't say I'm really close to my stepbrother. I think I think it's both faults. It's I don't bother to communicate with them. They don't really bother to communicate with me. And as you know, mom's not around anymore. He, she hasn't been around. It'll be almost 2 years this St. Patrick's Day. Um, but I still maintain a really solid relationship with my stepdad. I still like to see him. I still like him to get to know my kids. You know,
What happened to your mom?
uh, she died. Uh, he said about 2 years ago. She died from I want to say it's Alzheimer's. I I say that because I know Alzheimer's and dementia are like in the same family. I think it's like kind of like the way like HIV and AIDS works. It's like you can't. I think, anyways, like you can't have it like AIDS without the HIV, and I think it's like you can't have dementia without the Alzheimer's. I think I just know it's like similar in that sense. So she just developed Alzheimer's at a really young age, and her body, finally gave out.
When you say young, how old and or how many years ago?
I remember the first signs coming on is when I started going to college. So she must have started showing symptoms when she was probably about 50 years old.
Okay. So she had, yeah, there are, some of those, um, you know, dementia, Alzheimer's, that can hit people in their 50s. And I think that has a more, I want to say negative trajectory towards lifespan.
Yeah.
So in her 50s, that's really early. And, when you think about things, we're in our 30s. So that's like 20 years from now, right? What was that like when you guys got the initial diagnoses? What did that entail for your mom? And how fast maybe was that decompensation?
So like it was that was the thing. The doctor didn't really know what to say because she was so young, right? I'm telling you, like the symptoms started at 50. So she was definitely just confused, often repeating herself of things we just we all kind of like I don't know, forget where our keys were, what we just said, but like she would do it like 9 or 10 times, uh, saying, "Well, I'm gonna go this way," and she'd walk in the completely opposite direction. Be like, "Mom, you just said you're gonna." Oh yeah, 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 I know it. And then so we knew something was up, and we took her to the doctor, but they didn't want to call it Alzheimer's or dementia. They had no idea. They said that there was some gray matter around her brain that looked really off, that wasn't normal, and they were trying to study it, but they just didn't know what the heck to do with it because nobody knew about what this gray matter was or something. And she didn't have, and at the time, she didn't have any of the chief symptoms or I guess whatever the X-rays would show of Alzheimer's or dementia.
So did she begin to like forget who you guys were, or was that always intact?
No, not always. It was slow progress. So like I want to say the first 2 or 3 years, maybe even the first 4 years, she knew who she, excuse me, she knew who we were. It was just like this slow progress of even more of like, well, I'm forgetting where to go. Now I'm starting to get what food goes in what pantries, right? She could still take herself to the bathroom. She could still figure out that stuff. Then it started to get to the point where when my stepdad would take her out to restaurants, She there's no way she could figure out how to get to the restroom for the restaurant. So my stepdad would have to go with her, and he would have to ask like random women, like, "Hey, like, do you mind watching my wife has this?" And they would some kind-hearted women out there, and eventually got to the point where the only pattern she could recognize was inside her own home, how to navigate her home. She would talk, and I never felt like a thing of like, I don't know who you are, but it kind of started felt that way when eventually 5, 6 years in, she couldn't really form sentences. It was just like it was kind of like reversing to toddlerhood. It was a bunch of babbling, totally random patterns of walking, just like completely stripping down her clothes for no reason somewhere, getting angry out of nowhere. You would see certain people, they used to be your friends, and it would just completely get her frustrated, and she'd just start going off and hitting things and cursing, and even just like random people on TV. There was just certain people on TV that she could not handle seeing. It would just set her off, and her ramblings and getting mad and hitting and biting people. Um, then yeah, and eventually just kept dilapidating, and she just couldn't move, couldn't eat on her own, couldn't talk. Just basically being a vegetable.
That must have been so hard for all of you guys to experience it, to even see your mom.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I think not that I think I know it was tough for me, sure. But the people I feel the most for, besides my stepdad, because wife, that's a life, right? But Erica, she was still living at the house at the time, so I wasn't. I was gone when all this was going on. I haven't been in my own house since college. Um, so they really got the full brunt of it. At least I got to retreat to my own home.
Which is protective, right? I bet you there was probably this part of you that felt like you, in order to make sense of something like this, you needed to retreat from it.
Yeah, I had a place and my own person to talk to. I though I was extremely resistant to talk about it. Um, Nobody could. They tried. Casey tried. I would put all kinds of walls around me about it. You couldn't get me to talk about it, and if you kept trying, I just didn't.
She was your mom. You were just literally just telling us that, like, she was an you express, like, she was your traditional mom and then your Cuban mom, you know?
Yeah,
It's hard to see somebody that you love, that you look up to, become somebody completely different.
yeah, yeah. Especially just to revert to just like I said, like a nothing state to eventually where she can't feed herself, bathe herself, nothing. Yeah, it sucks. Even now, it still sucks. At least I could say that she walked me down the aisle in the marriage, in my marriage. I got that luxury. She was still out of it, obviously, right? Like, but at least I think she kind of knew what was going on. Like, you look back at old pictures of our wedding, and she's dancing with me, and she's got a smile on her face. I think she, at that point, anyways, she still knew generally what was going on. She just couldn't articulate anything, you know? She's just, I don't know. But I don't know. I got some luxury stuff. Unlike my sister, I feel bad for her. Like I don't know. Mm, sorry.
No, you're
she,
good.
my sister doesn't. She just didn't get to see a lot of the life events. Like, I'll say this. Like, I kind of wish my mom got to see the man I am now. Because before she got sick, like, I don't know. I wasn't great at school. I wasn't always like the disciplined and I don't know, more humble and humiliated man that I am today. At least when my mom first was still most cognitive, she didn't see me become a professional. She didn't get to see me to own my own home, to have my own grandkids, or excuse me, her own grandkids, my own kids, and I wish she got to see who I am today. maybe she did understand, maybe she didn't. I don't know. It's so hard to say the way she was.
Mm. I mean, that connection that, especially a young boy has with their mom, right? You know, and the things that you strive, you know, seek approval of, right? Like, look, I did this, I got this. I wonder 'cause I think I met your mom when she attended your first housewarming party, and, like, we don't know. Hopefully something stuck, right? And then if I'm not mistaken, timeline-wise, your daughter would have met your mom, right? Or did she your Yeah, she did, right?
She did. She did. And let's see, Lucas, it's my son. Born He was born on January 29th of 2024. So she would have met him as an infant. Again, no lie to you, if she had any recollection or anything. Well, no, was she would have met him? No, I don't think it is. No, 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 because it was almost 2 years ago. Yeah, yeah, she wouldn't have. But I got memories of like Casey, putting like my mom's hand on her stomach with the pregnancy, and yeah, we have pictures of Abigail and my mom together, like trying to put her in her lap and stuff, and trying to explain, hey, like this is your abuela. Um, you know, whether my mom recognized that, I don't know. I like to think she would.
Some type of connection, attunement that comes natural, you would hope. Yeah.
Yeah, like all she was really doing was kind of like squeezing hands then, and even then, it was kind of hard to like know if she's squeezing hands because she's trying to like tell us she wants something, she's recognizing something, or is she trying to communicate with you, or is it just a muscle spasm? I don't know. It was so hard to say.
Your mother passed away, like you said, about a year and a half to 2 years ago at this point, um, from her disease. Were you able to talk to her?
Like before, uh, so I remember I was flying to Texas for my cousin's wedding, and when I landed, uh, they told me she's in the emergency room as soon as I Texas. First, I had to drop off Casey and the kids with in the emergency room, and I was a few hours at that point, and that's when like some of the hospice come in, right? And they were right. They were like, "Hey, like this is might be something you want to consider." Talking to my stepdad, and I remember just being upset. Like, they're like, "What do you mean? Like my stepdad's doing fine. She doesn't need hospice." I didn't know the full extent of what was going on because my stepdad didn't really tell me. To be fair, he knows how my old reactions were, so I think he was just trying to protect me. Um, but yeah, there was really no other route at that point. At that point, she lost the ability to swallow. It's like, okay, well, now she can't eat anymore. She can't talk. She can't move. She can't even swallow food now. Uh, but she caught pneumonia, and she caught the pneumonia because food got trapped in her lungs because she was in the middle of losing her ability to swallow. We didn't know at the time, and to chew properly and stuff, and food got caught in her lungs, and that's what happened. I know you asked me about communication. The reason I bring this up is because I spent every day, about an hour at least, if not more, from the time she was in hospice before she passed. Every day. So I tried to talk to her. I held her hand a lot. I you understand what I was saying. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Again, I can't imagine what that was like for you.
Yeah, it's hard for anyone, right? It's always hard to lose a mother and to see someone move her away. Yeah, it's not easy. I don't. I mean, I life's still good, Jackie. I can't. It's everyone goes through something, and life is still honestly. I can't complain. God's just been so good to me. Things have been amazing.
So let's talk a little bit about those blessings. So this is what I had not prepped you for, but I'm going to throw it in if you're okay with it. Okay.
Mhm.
So first things first. You live in South Florida. It is a pretty pricey place to live. What
Yep.
do you do for a living? You don't have to necessarily go too deep into it. You can just say the vague field that you're in if you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah. So it's funny you're saying, "Oh, South Florida is so pricey and stuff." I was I am a federal law enforcement officer, and the hiring process took a long time from application to hire. It was about a year and a half process, and I remember I was just going through so many applications every day, hustling because my wife was a teacher. She had a career. I'm this college guy with a diploma, but no job, nothing going for it. I remember it even got to the point where my father-in-law kind of wanted my wife to sign a prenup because he's like, "Oh, I don't know. Do you really want to marry this unemployed guy? Like, are you sure?" And I get it. He's just trying to protect his daughter. Now
And
that I'm a
you have a
father,
nice pool, so I get that.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I get it now, right? But back then I was kind of like, oh, dude, right? But but looking back at it now, even though I wasn't uh, a true man of faith back then. I didn't have relationships at all with God or Christ. Um, God knew it was gonna come. He was just telling me, just wait. Wait for the right time. Wait for the right time. It's coming, and it did. And luckily, it is a good enough paying job that yeah, I can survive down here. In fact, thrive. I should say thrive here in South Florida.
What made you pursue a career in law enforcement? Is that something you always saw yourself doing? Is that what you majored in school?
So no, I never thought I was gonna be in law enforcement. I wanted to do something that was meaningful and paid well, right? So originally, I pursued EMTs and paramedic school. I got my EMT license right out of high school,
I didn't
right?
know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did. I got my EMT license right out of high school. I took the course, whatever. Then I was halfway through paramedic school. Here's the issue: I didn't want to be a firefighter. Okay, I'm not jumping in burning buildings. That wasn't gonna happen. Okay, and it's also, at least at the time when I was growing up, it was to become a paramedic firefighter in South Florida in, I want to say that was 2013, 2014, was extremely competitive. Okay. And I even knew a guy who was a friend who his father was a chief of a fire station here, and he still couldn't get a job till a year later in his dad's fire department. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm just a medic, I'm only gonna make like 30, 40K a year, and that's not gonna cut it here. So I'm like, okay, well, let me look into what's it called? The athletic trainers, right? The guys that patch up people on the football fields or soccer or whatever. But those guys don't make any real money unless you're going to go to the NFL or NBA or something like that, and you're traveling all the time. Well, I didn't want to travel all the time. I knew I wanted to be a family man, so that wasn't attractive to me. Okay, so I was kind of like stuck in a rut. Casey told me about a job her second or third cousin was in. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I'll apply for it, whatever, who cares? So I did. And I then switched my major to criminal justice, which I never did that. Wish I never did that to this day. I wish I was, I don't know, switch to like IT, something like that. Because it didn't really help me. It just got me a bit of a pay bump, but like, I don't know. It's a degree that's, for me, it was useless. I don't know. Unless I'm gonna teach on it or something. I should have done something else. But I switched to criminal justice thinking it was gonna help me with my career that I'm in now, and like I said, I kinda just applied, I kinda just blew it off, like, "Yeah, whatever." But it was going, and it was going, and it was going, and eventually, a year and a half later, they gave me a call and said, "Hey, we'd like to hire you."
Hmm. I'm trying to think of the timeline. Did you know you were applying to that when we became friends, or I thought you came up? Yeah, I was gonna say I thought you came up with it afterwards.
It was after graduating. So
Okay.
that's the whole struggle, right? I'm like, well, I'm graduating, I'm about to get married, I don't have a career, right? My wife, she had a like 2 or 3 job offers before she even graduated from college, and here I am, like, kind of stuck. So that's when she's like, "Hey, how about you give this a try?" Right? We knew we didn't want to leave Florida at the time, um, and for this job, you had to be like willing to move. Well, a position opened up in Key West, so I was like, "Okay, yeah, let's screw it. We'll apply for Key West." Luckily, by the time they hired me, they offered me Fort Lauderdale, so I just stuck with that.
Had
But
to
yeah,
go away
I
for a little bit
ended up
though.
graduating when I applied.
Yeah. And are you liking it now still?
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's probably one of the most friendly law enforcement positions you can have in the federal government, as far as spending time with your family,
Yeah. How long did you
right?
do for your time off? Was it like a month or 2?
With when I had my kids,
Mhm.
3 months,
3
3 months.
months. That's
We
amazing.
Mm-hmm. It was
I would have
incredible.
gotten a little bored, but 3 months.
No, I loved it. And time went by so quick. I remember my coworkers thinking like they would come back and yell at me and be like, "Dude, why didn't you come working overtime during that?" I'm like, "No, I was enjoying my time at home. I'm not gonna go work overtime. I work plenty of overtime as it is."
Here's the
I'm good.
truth. He wasn't actually helping with raising kids at that time. He started and finished and explored all aspects of Boulder's Gate.
Yeah, no, 100%,
The 3 months went towards.
100% true. No, Casey did everything. It was a vacation.
So you got a career, it's stable. How old is your oldest child?
She's 3 years.
3 years old. So you said you want to settle down and be a
Mhm.
family guy. That didn't happen on your time, huh?
It's not easy. I was working overnight. I was working midnight to 8, 6 days a week, right? And also overtime on top of that. Okay, so I'm already working hours and now add I'm into the mix. And like I said, it's midnight to 8, so I have to sleep at some point. Um, I can see it being good when they're older and they're going to school. But right now, while my kids are toddlers, it's not the greatest.
Evan,
But
wait, Evan, I don't think you picked up what I was putting down.
oh no, all right, what did you say?
No, you're good. Evan has this difficulty sometimes. I'll say something to him and we're talking about,
It
a
my internet.
cruise that he's going to be booking instead. So he's always on a cruise. I'm always surprised and a little jealous. So I'm talking about your goals in your life. You ended up with this career.
Yeah.
Then you guys, wanted to have children, but having children didn't work quite on your guys' timeline.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah. This is what I'm throwing at you that I did not give you any type of insight that I was gonna ask.
I got you. No, so no, me and Casey, we wanted since I was 20, 27 years old, and that's when we were actively trying.
27?
26 or 27, I was. I want to say I was 27. Casey was 25, 24, depending on depending if I was 26 or 27. I always wanted to be kind of a younger parent, and we were actively trying. It was like this thing of like, she was really tracking her cycles, and it would be like, come on, we got to, this is the time, let's go. And we were doing it for months and months and months and nothing and nothing and nothing. And eventually months became a year, and a year became a year and a half. And we were like, okay, we need to see a fertility doctor. So we did. And, we were still, and so we tried different methods. I want to say the first least invasive method. Oh my gosh, this wasn't that long ago. I should remember this. It was like I don't know. I'm just gonna go to the one I do remember. Like there's one where like, oh right, no, I do remember. They wanted to like first start testing my sperm, and then they're like tasting Casey to see like what do they need to approach. Um, my first sperm test was atrocious. They said I had like an equivalent to like a 70-year-old man or something like
Oh,
that.
no.
uh, and then Casey, she has something called PCOS. And it was weird because she doesn't have any of the chief things that typically come with PCOS. She's a healthy woman. She takes care of herself, but she just happens to have it. I'm a young man. I kind of take care of myself, right? I could do a little better, but here I am with really weak sperms. So eventually they got better. I was taking this supplement, and now they're like they're Superman. They're amazing. So we did all the things. It still didn't work. Okay. Um, then we did something called IUIs, and it kind of like just gives my sperm a head start with Casey. And we did like 3 or 4 of them, and they're still just failing, 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 each and every one. There's a drastic option, right? The most, and I say drastic because it is invasive, especially for the woman, which is IVF. And we decided we were going to do it. Luckily, because IVF is very expensive. We're talking 25, 30 grand just for IVF,
Wow.
so, but luckily, Casey's health insurance at the time was so good, and we didn't use it for any of the other fertility treatments that we were receiving, that they covered it.
Wow. So
Yeah,
just
yeah, they
because the audio is a little faint, 25K normally not covered by anything, but because you guys really covered the other um, trials of things, they decided to go ahead and cover this treatment.
yep, they thought we
Wow.
were, and I guess with us covering ourselves yeah, man, they covered it completely. So, we did it. Casey was taking a lot of shots. She did her little surgery, and I think we started with 13 or 11 eggs, I want to say, that were fertilized. But then they do this other process where they want them to, I think it's called go to the blastoid stage or something like that. I know it sounds like the Pokemon, but but it's like they basically wanted them to divide at least to 100 cells. We went from 13 to 3 that made it. And then genetic testing on them. So out of the 3, 2 were extremely healthy, very good rated, and 1 was unfortunately was just it was too genetically messed up. Even if we tried, it would have never have turned into a baby ever. It was too messed up. It couldn't have. So it's not like it wouldn't have turned into a life. It just wouldn't have worked. Period.
Talk about the disappointment I'd wonder you guys experience with a year and a half to 2 years of trying, and maybe some people around you were having kids, aka me, and
Yeah.
just trying and trying and trying. You're like, oh my word, this isn't happening. Should we just hang it up? And 25 grand is not a lot. And to not know or assume your insurance would cover it, did you ever feel like you wanted to throw your hands up in the air and just say, forget about it? Oh, Evan disappeared.
Sorry. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Did you hear my
Sorry.
question?
Yeah, I heard your question. My phone's. Anyways, it was tough. I think it was a lot tougher on Casey than it was on me. Um, because I know I want it, but like I don't know. I was willing to go the adoption route, even if we needed to. So was Casey. To be fair, it's not like she was against it, but she really wanted to experience pregnancy, and I can respect that, and I love that, and I want my own kids. Let's face it. I don't know. I God bless the people who do adoption. I think it's a wonderful thing. But I don't know. I think a lot of people just want their own biological children if they can. And sure, yeah, there's a lot of people around us having kids, and it's like, oh, we just tried the first time. We didn't even get to have any fun with it. It just happened, right? We just heard that so much. It was so annoying. We're like, yeah, dude. Casey cried a lot. The time it failed, it would just stress her out, like the IUIs and all that. I do remember a lot of tears from her, and yeah, me thinking like it may never work. Especially because IVF is not even a guarantee, right? I mean, the eggs still got to stick. So even if you do have healthy eggs, your body still has to accept it. So yeah, I mean, I'm like, if it doesn't happen, I'm still with this woman that I love and I adore, and maybe we can go the other route and adopt some kids if we needed to.
Yeah. I just want to give you a quick, heads up. You're a little pixelated on my end, your face. FYI, yeah, I can't imagine what that's like. And then again, you even saying that it's not even guaranteed with, IVF that it would stick. You're like 25 grand for what? Just a maybe or a miscarriage, maybe? That is tough. And that's a lot of, again, but I'm sure it helped with the insurance to like, but it's still invasive, like you mentioned, right? So it's, yeah. So now you have two, both of them were born the same way, right?
Yep.
With, implementation, yep, shots and stuff, the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
Am I mistaken? Are you guys, like, trying but not trying and see what happens? You remind me of Chandler Bing and Monica, Geller. I'm not sure if you ever seen Friends or that episode, but it was like, Chandler's, like, sperm, I think, like, shoots, like, right through the eggs, and then, like, even if they were to implant or, connect with, Monica's, her body's made to, like, expel and get rid of them anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we are in a trying, not trying thing right now. We are. Casey's gonna go to the doctor soon, and she kind of laid it out there that she wants to go from trying, not trying to probably really trying. We're not gonna go IVF, IUIs. We're done with all that. If it's gonna happen, we want it to happen natural. We would just look at it as a blessing from God and keep it like that, right? I mean, our kids are already blessings enough, right? But if God wants us to have a third, then it'll happen. Um, but yeah, I mean, we might like coming probably in a couple weeks after she visits the doctor. We might go to back to the thing of like, hey, we're tracking. Hey, it's important that we do it at this time and whatever.
But at the end of the day, not that you still wouldn't be disappointed. You have 2 kids that you're happy with, and you just want to continue to try to grow the family that you have. I guess with that same realm of questionings, IVF, and I'm gonna make assumptions, and I could be wrong with my assumptions, so I hope nobody gets mad with it, but, I think about cultural norms and, like, did anybody in your guys' family to say, "Why are you doing that?" Like, IVF, that's not a natural God way of doing things.
No, to be honest with you, I never got that pushback. It's funny, I because at the time, like I still wasn't really as nearly involved with my relationship with God as I am, right? I didn't start seeing that until after I converted, not even from my family, not even from my church members. It was just stuff I would see on YouTube about it because I'm like, well, I'm newer to the faith. Um, so let me look up other things. Like what am I not to do? What I am I to do? And I got curious about IVF because of something I did. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of stigmas about it in religious communities, and I'm not saying I don't understand the arguments, but like I said, I feel like my kids are a blessing. There's a reason that only two came from it, and they both stuck and worked the first time, which is crazy. I mean, I we have a friend of ours that she's done this process like not the IVF.
9 years, you said?
No, like trying to get the fertilized egg to stick to her lining 9 times.
9 times,
9
yikes.
before it finally worked, and we got her too. So it's like, brother, it just felt like that in itself is a miracle.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
So, I guess as we wrap down and wind down, I wanna honor your time, and I appreciate the time that you've given me. Uh, but let's be honest, you would have played whatever game you were playing, that little something, something, something Destiny 2.
I got chores to do.
Yeah, okay. So, your faith. I wanna kinda end with your faith. Now, you grew up Catholic, it was pretty much part of your ethnicity as well, and your religion of what you practiced growing up, how active you were. I'm unsure, but you'll give us some insights. You
Yeah.
know, where you're at now, it's still very, like, very distinctly different. Even though you might have maybe considered yourself somewhat religious back then, your faith is practiced very differently and personalized very different. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I would I would say Catholic light. The reason I say that's because, yeah, I did my infant baptism. I went through first communion, never went through confirmation, but I never went to church. We would go to church with my dad when we were kids, but only with my dad. My mom and stepdad, we never did related to whatsoever, ever. Never talked about. We never did anything, right? Um, my
Oh.
dad would take us to church, but even then, there was never a conversation to be had about God, the Catholic faith, like nothing. It was just church and we went home, right? So I don't know. I don't know if my dad did it more of like he felt like he had to, because like you said, there's definitely an ethnicity thing to it. And Catholicism kind of go hand in hand. I couldn't even tell you what the gospel was back then. Genuinely, I couldn't tell you none of the apostles. I couldn't tell you anything that I know now. Um, but now, after having Abigail, I was like, well, because I never went to church in my own time, ever, never did any of that, never prayed, never. But Abigail made me think, well, I need to, I need to grow her up right. I need to grow her up with some sort of moral code, and what better way to do that than church? And you've always been around, you've kind of like laid the seeds yourself. But Casey had a friend that she knew about this church down here, and we checked it out. And though I'm no longer active in that church, I can credit that church to say it got me to realize that even though I thought I was going to church for my daughter to make her a better person and more person, little did I know that I really needed Christ for me at the time. And I've really blown up. I mean, I do Bible studies on my own time. I actively pray. I really try to implement it in my life. Really try to pray with my kids. It's been a really positive experience. It's really changed a lot of my point of views on things. I've loved it. I love that relationship back with Christ again.
I guess my final question is, what about that awesome Jack Hilton, huh?
Yeah, listen, he planted the seed, baby. You know, but
No, not because of
but
that.
but to be very fair to you, I would go to you, and I still do with a lot of questions, because I you have been longer in the faith than me. So when I do go through struggles, or I'm like, well, I don't understand what this means, or how do I approach this? Remember, I even approached you like with Casey, like I don't know what to do. Like Casey's not getting into it, which now she is. She started getting involved in church stuff way before I did. After she she started to believe.
And what do
Um,
I always do? I side with the women, don't I? I said, Evan, check yourself.
so- and I'm never forgetting. You tell me, you're like, just exemplify Christ through your own example. Just be as Christ like it can, and maybe she'll understand it that way. And you know what? It worked. I stopped talking to her about it. I just started being more like me, trying to follow examples of Christ, and she slowly started to ask me more questions. And we got baptized together later. And it's
Honestly, I hope that you take what one thing that you take away from our friendship is that I'm just kind of walking the path just like you are. I'm no better, all because I might have had my faith longer. I still struggle. I have my days, We're
yeah,
really in this journey together. And what I love about you is the fact that you're kind of similar to me, and it's kind of what you see is what you get. And you're not this like in this performance mode, like you're always just genuinely Evan and I'm just genuinely Jack. And whether I'm with Christians, whether I'm with my friends, like what you see is what you get. But the way that we love on you as people is the way that that Christ loves us. And we just truly just, I feel you and I just really just tend to be very loving people.
amen. I try.
We wouldn't be so close, right? Sure, you annoy me a lot of the times, but still. Do you have any final things you want to say to anybody? Any words of encouragement? I really do appreciate again you taking the time to do this. I know this is an hour of your time, and despite audio things, and visual things, this has truly been an amazing conversation for me. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to your journey with, not only the medical trauma that you've experienced. If you don't mind me calling that, I think there was a lot of medical trauma, um, and then also the baby situation. I mean, so many people are so discouraged, and here you are as an example that it's not perfect, it's not on our time, but if you just hang in there, look at that. So if you have any like words or of encouragement or something you want to share.
I guess yeah, I will. But let me just say this one thing: you are right about that because because of what my mom went through, every time I forget something, I'm like, I just put my glasses down. Where the heck did my glasses go? Oh my gosh, I'm getting it. It's already happening. Oh, and I've done that several times. And it took you and my sister to be like, Evan, that's literally called trauma, what you're going through. You're hyping yourself out because of mom, and you think you're going to catch it now and stuff. But, anyways, I don't know. I don't claim to be a wise man. I don't claim to be somebody who can be a guru who can like give you really life advice or whatever. But I guess if I'm just gonna give something that's really helped me out as a person, besides my relationship with Jesus, what's really helped me out is man, humility, humility and just trying to be humble and always just try to look at the positives that you have in our life. Comparison is the thief of joy. And often like now we're talking about well, maybe one third kid, okay, but you have 2 beautiful kids that you love. Okay, I want a bigger house, but you have a house in South Florida. You're doing so good. You're making decent money. Like we constantly compare, and I think people really got to be careful with that. Just try to see what you have. We're so blessed in so many ways that we often don't realize because we do that comparison game so often. I don't know. That's really helped me carry on through life.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the path model I developed, presence, right? Presence, it's not just nervous system regulation, but learning to kind of stay in this moment, right? And I think it's so easy to become misaligned in our directions and steps and responses because of wanting more, thinking we have to be here versus wait a minute. Let me look at my own values of who I feel called to be, who God's calling me to be, who I want to be, and let me choose today to go that way.
Amen.
Well, Evan, I truly appreciate you joining me on the path.